If you saw this little thing lying in the street or scattered on a shelf, you might think it was just some junk. It's anything but. I'm not exaggerating when I say that throughout history, this little thing has helped keep legions of people alive, and to this day, it has the potential to save your life, or at least keep you fed. This isn't detritus, it's a can opener. And though it looks and is surprisingly simple, it's also genius. Today I'm going to tell you all about the military issue P-38 can opener, how to use one, and why it's still a good idea to have one in your kitchen arsenal today. Hello and welcome to I Want to Cook. My name is Chef Matt, and yes, today we are turning our attention to a small but very important kitchen tool. In fact, I think this is the smallest one we've ever worked with on this channel, but it could be one of the most important. Now, if this looks familiar, yes, this is the correct answer to last week's culinary tool trivia. Several of you correctly identified this as a military issue P-38 can opener. And moreover, several of you mentioned that you actually used one of these in your time in the service. And well, I always want to thank our service members for what you've done for your sacrifice. My wife and my father are veterans, and my nephews are currently serving in the armed forces. Thank you. Now, I've discussed and demoed some interesting can openers before on this channel, including that side cut can opener, also called a safety cut can opener, that leaves edges very smooth when it takes a lid off of a can. But well, this is really different, and many of you have probably never used one of these or perhaps even heard of one of these, so let's dig into this thing. So the P-38 can opener came about during World War II, and though it looks simple, it really is a marvel of engineering. In fact, the US military in one article called it the Army's best invention ever. Wow. According to the US Army, this little can opener was invented in just 30 days in the summer of 1942 by Major Thomas Dennehy at the Subsistence Research Laboratory in Chicago. It would go on to be patented by the J.W. Speaker Corp., which, along with other military contractors, would make millions and millions of these things over the next 4 decades. According to one article by the US Army, this is so fascinating. It says, over the history of the P-38, it has never been known to, I quote, break, rust, need sharpening, or polishing. The P-38 was invented to open the canned food called C rations that soldiers were eating at the time, and they were actually used by the US military until the 1980s, when the C rations were replaced by MRE, meals ready to eat. By one count, 1 billion of these things were made over the decades, and they're actually still being manufactured today. These can openers were eventually made in 2 sizes, the original P-38 and then the larger P-51. As for how the P-38 got its name, well, that's a little bit of a mystery, but according to the US Army, one story is that it took 38 punctures to open a C ration with this can opener, and well, 51 for the larger cans with this. And this also referred to the speed of the P-38 fighter plane at the time, and well, the P-51 Mustang for this guy, I guess. I should also mention that the Navy referred to the P-38 can opener as the John Wayne, because I guess it's just so tough. Now size-wise, as you can see, these are small. The P-38 is about 1.5 inches and the P-51 is about 2 inches, but they are both have the same design. They are made out of steel and it's just this two-piece with this hinge here. But what's genius, and what apparently JW Speaker patented, was a way to make indentations on this little hinge so that, well, the blade stayed closed until you lifted it up. That way it wasn't poking through uniforms or hurting anybody with its sharp blade. I should quickly note also that other countries have similar types of tools, and some of them even have utensils built in. For example, some of these have like a spoon right here, enabling you to open the can and then, I don't know, eat the beans or whatever you want to scoop out all in one unit. That's pretty genius. And speaking of genius, you might notice that there's a little hole right here in this P-38 and the P-51 also, and that served a couple of purposes. Well, first of all, the military recommended that you put a string through it and you dip this into boiling water after use to sterilize it, or you could even just light it with a flame to sterilize it. But of course, soldiers, they are very ingenious, and they actually used this to put on their dog tags. They would put this through a chain, and they would use it to keep on themselves at all times. Again, that is just so smart. Now, when these were made, according to one article, they only cost about a penny a piece to produce. And well, they're not that cheap these days, but they're still very inexpensive. You can buy these easily and, well, just about everywhere if you have a military supply store or just online. I bought a few of these at some military supply stores in my town, and they're only about $1 a piece, very economical. But, well, how do you use one of these? Let's get at it. Okay, so here's how we do this. The first thing you want to do is you see this little notch right here. Even this has a purpose. What that's going to do is you're going to put this on the lip of the can. These will open any can that has a lip. And well, the first cut is going to be the hardest. But what you do is you put your thumb right here and you just press just like that. And that's going to make the first cut. And then from here, we just keep doing that in a, I guess that would be a clockwise fashion while rotating the can counterclockwise. And you see this is just opening this can. Now if we used the larger P-51 here, you'd see that it'd be easier because, well, we have more of a fulcrum. But whichever one you're using, it's the same process. You just keep doing this until you open the can entirely. And there we have our lid open. Now what you can do if the lid is kind of stuck in the can, you can actually use this edge and lift it right up. And as you see, well, these are very sharp. This is not that safe cut can opener with the nice smooth edges. These are very sharp, so you do want to watch that, but ultimately, we've just opened our can. Now, admittedly, these are not the first things I reach for when I'm opening a can. Of course, just a regular can opener is going to be easier, less hassle, and, well, you're not going to have these sharp edges. But I still think one or a few of these are great to have, and well, there's a few reasons for that. The first is, well, they're small and cheap. It's not like you're going to be shelling out a bunch of money for this. But these are great to have in an emergency, and they're great to have with your emergency food. I even like to store these in my car along with a few cans of food because, well, you just never know. Especially if you live in a place where maybe there's bad weather, you might get stuck, you might get stranded in your car. Having some cans of food, some provisions, some water, and, well, one of these could literally mean Well, they can make the difference between life and death, between you getting fed and not. And again, they don't take up much space. You can just put them almost anywhere. A great idea is if you're going to have some canned food in your car, and again, I suggest you do, you just tape this to the top of the can or you put it somewhere nearby. Again, very easy. One place you probably won't be taking these, however, is on a plane. I actually reached out to the TSA because I was curious if you could bring these as carry-ons, and well, you can't. They said because of this blade, you cannot, but of course, you could put it in your checked luggage, just no carry-on per the TSA. And just like those soldiers throughout the decades, you might find other uses for this besides just opening cans. A lot of soldiers, they even use this as a screwdriver in a pinch, and you can see how. This lid, for example, has a screw in it, and you could just kind of put this in and tighten that screw. There are myriad stories of soldiers and civilians alike using these things in ways, well, other than just opening cans. And if you have a story or two, I would love to hear it in the comments below. So that is the P-38 and P-51 can openers. I should also mention, you can use these left or right-handed. That's another benefit of these. It's not like you have to be right-handed to use them. They work just as well with lefties as well. So the P-38 and P-51, if you're just going to get one of these, I recommend getting the P-51. It's a little bit larger, but it's going to make opening cans all that much easier just because of its larger size. It's probably going to cost the same as well. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you've got memories of these things, again, I would love to hear those in the comments below. Okay, for this week's culinary trivia, we are headed back to the produce aisle. And what is this? If you know what this is or you have a guess, put it in the comments below. I will, of course, let you know the correct answer in the next episode. As always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Until next time, I hope you want to cook.